Hello and welcome back to Tech Latest from Nikkei Asia, where we bring you the freshest updates from the technology sector in Asia. I'm your host Akito Tanaka from Nikkei Asia's Tokyo headquarters, and Lauly Li, Nikkei Asia's tech correspondent based in Taipei, will join us for this episode. We'll discuss Chinese tech industry's effort to counter U.S. President Trump's tariff. Welcome to this week's episode, Lauly. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be back again.
So in this week's Tech Asia feature story, you wrote about Chinese tech companies' efforts to expand into China-friendly destination. Could you explain to us what this means?
Sure. My colleagues Annie, Sissy, Tabeta-san, and I worked together on this week's Tech Asia feature. The story is about Beijing urging Chinese tech companies to venture into non-US markets, especially in the European markets, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. So some leading Chinese tech companies, such as display champion BOE and the world's biggest PC maker Lenovo, as well as many state-owned enterprises, including automakers, are the driving force to respond to the government's call. And what we understand from our reporting is that the move is to counter the mounting pressure from the US-China tensions, with an aim to help the Chinese economy better withstand U.S. tariffs and help expand China's economic influence overseas.
Okay, that's interesting. And you specifically mentioned Lenovo. What is their approach?
Right. Lenovo has advised a team to focus on non-U.S. overseas markets, such as Europe, and it is building new production facilities with Saudi Arabia headquartered electronic maker Alat in Riyadh. The factory in the Middle East is estimated to start producing laptops and desktop computers in 2026. And what we learned is that Lenovo's move to European markets and the Middle East is to cushion the escalating US-China tension, as Lenovo's supply chain heavily relies on China, but the country now faces more than 100% of tariffs. And for the Middle East market, one of the sources close to Lenovo told us that Saudi Arabia could be a relatively stable choice for Lenovo, as it is easier to serve local and regional markets of the Middle East and ship to Europe and Africa, and potentially even offer a safe haven for exports to the US.
And how is the Chinese government backing up all these projects?
From our reporting with industry sources, Beijing's call was not a written policy. Rather, it is a spoken encouragement. But looking at this matter from the perspective of the Chinese tech companies, it is also a positive strategy for them to lower the impact from the increasing geopolitical uncertainties. So for example, BOE, the Chinese display champion, as a component and parts supplier, it does not directly face the US tariff impact. But the tariff war will consequently affect its end customers, forcing its clients to turn on non-China supply chains. So in order to stay competitive edge, for BOE to investing into Vietnam, Mexico, and now exploring feasibility to own its production capacity in Europe will help the Chinese display maker to retain its order and customer relations. And of course, without the government support and green light, a heavily government-backed company like BOE would not have been able to invest outside of the country.
True, interesting. And it seems like a new order of international relations and supply chains is being built as we speak. Now, which countries or regions do you think will strengthen ties with China and Chinese companies? And do you think these measures by Beijing and Chinese companies will pay off?
And that's a very good question. In Trump's first term, and particularly during the Biden administration, the U.S. government's approach was to, make friends and allies with other countries to corner Beijing, to curb the country's tech advancement. The supply chain has been shifted some capacity into Southeast Asia, Taiwan, India, and Mexico in the past few years, and the U.S. called it a friend-shoring policy. And at that time, the tech supply chain said the geopolitics was dividing the industry into China and non-China systems. But now, since Trump's return to the White House, his harsh attacks on neighboring countries, friendly allies have really confused the supply chain, especially the escalation of tariff war in early April. Many suppliers we talk to say that the situation now is turning tide and the market is becoming the US and the rest of the world. So to answer your questions, I think Southeast Asia, the Middle East, which already quite welcome Chinese investments, will continue to strengthen their ties with the Chinese suppliers. For example, China plus Hong Kong is already the top foreign investors in countries like Vietnam and Thailand, and also the critical investment source to Malaysia as well. But that being said, as the US government is pressuring countries to step up reviews on potential country of origin launderings, I think regions such as Southeast Asia will also increase their scrutiny on exports and imports of China to avoid offending the US government.
Really interesting. Thank you, Lauly. Are there any other Nikkei Asia tech stories you want to recommend to our readers this week?
Sure. We have an interview done by Peggy in Hong Kong to talk about Indian software and IT giant Tata seeking expansion in Hong Kong as it senses opportunities after a series of bank layoffs and mounting scrutiny, concerns over AI models such as China's DeepSeek. And there's also a scoop about Japan's telecom company, KDDI, and IT group NEC plan to start a joint cybersecurity business as soon as this year. Those two, I think, are really interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all for this week's episode. You can read more of Lauly's reporting along with other stories about Asia's tech industry on Nikkei Asia's website, asia.nikkei.com. Thank you for listening, and please come back for our next episode.